This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview.
Hello and welcome to Research Talks podcast here on Stopbox with Alan Green. It's good to be talking to you again, Alan. How are things? How was your holiday?
It was great, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I had a really good time up in Scotland, but as ever, you arrive back and get back into work, and all of a sudden, the phone goes, emails come pouring in, and 48 hours later, you've almost forgotten the holiday. But
Indeed,
a great time, a really good time, and I gather you're up in the north of England at the moment as well.
I am up in the north, yes, in York. Just about to head down to Cornwall tomorrow for a wedding at the weekend. So hopefully it stays nice, because I know it's a big wedding. It's a farmers kind of community. So the food is going to be very good. I know there's a hog roast in the evening, which I'm particularly looking forward to.
I do like a hog roast as well.
Yes, so that should be good, Alan. So looking forward to that. But of course, on the Research Talks podcast today, we're going to be getting an update on ECR Minerals. I know you're very familiar with that story, and also Zenova, who I don't think we've covered before, but they have some very interesting products. It's definitely a different sort of tech company, I'm calling them, that appear on Stopbox. There's a new appearer on the platform. So let's get your take on that. So who do you want to kick off with?
Well, let's start with Zenova Group.
Okay.
Zenova listed, they were founded actually in January 2020 by Tony Crawley, who was the CEO up to a month or so ago, and he's stayed with the board, but he's basically taken the sales director role now, heading up pure sales, just to focus on driving the sales for the company. But they launched Zenova after realizing potential through researching a number of innovative products for fire protection, and these, of course, involve the range that's very clearly advertised on the website. That's the Zenova FP paint, known as intumescent or thermofoaming paint. It's a heat-resistant water-based paint that prevents ignition and the spread of fire. And we did some work just at the IPO point with Zenova. And there are a number of videos. If you go to the website, you can actually see the fire retardant paint in action on a can, and it's pretty impressive. I mein, it just goes to show how, if this treatment is applied, how effective it is. At the time, of course, I say at the time, prior to that, of course, we'd had that dreadful tragedy at Grenfell, and I think, had those cladding panels being treated with Zenova paint, we might have seen a different outcome. But I just wanted to touch on that, because that was certainly something we were talking about at the time. So aside from the fire paint, there's also the Zenova FX fire extinguisher. That's selling really well, and I'll touch on that again shortly. Zenova IP thermal insulating coating, and this is a coating that goes on most modern insulating technology, and again, it's an application that can be used at the building stage. Also, along with Zenova IR, which is a thermal insulating render coating, and of course that provides insulation benefits as well as fire protection benefits. And then we have the wildfire barrier, which can be used. I mean, we're seeing so many fires now due to global warming. We've seen the dreadful fires in Australia and California. Now, if the WB, the fire break retardant, is used, it stays effective for many weeks after application, and it protects dry vegetation from combustion. So, of course, with that multitude of products, you've got to have a sales team behind this to build this. And given it's a fairly binary sales process, Tony, of course, and his team have been busy putting in place relationships, developing relationships, and building that sales channel. On May 31st, the company announced its full year results to November 30th, 2022. The previous year, they'd made just £6,000 worth of sales. Sales to May 31st, to November 30th, 2022, announced on May 31st, were 175,000. So growth from there, but obviously an awful long way to go. And of course, with the listing and with the other costs, the company reported a loss of 2 million. Now, of course, the company listed at around 18p, so the share price has really come back a long way since then, currently trading at 4p, which gives the company a market cap of 4.76 million. And it's just raised $500,000 at that level. So it's important, I think, to recognise that with these board changes, the company has also seen the directors and key board members make available additional funds to the company. So at the time of reporting their numbers, the company had access to a working capital loan from the board of 350,000, and including those, the company had cash resources at that point of $500,000. So the company's in a good position financially, which is the most important thing. Now, of course, there were board changes made. I mentioned Tony had stepped across to a sales director role, or a sales project director role. Thomas Melchior has stepped up from CFO to interim chief executive officer. Don Nicholson, the chairman, and Don Nicholson's a prolific chairman in the listed company arena. He spent 26 years with BP. He's stepped back to a non-exec chairman role, and the focus is on driving sales and pushing and developing these relationships. And I think if you read the annual results report, you'll see just how far the company have come. The company's got multiple sub-distributor agreements in place, an agreement with Omnis Panels LLC to sell, which is a construction sector wholesaler in the USA. There's the company products received additional validation from the University of Exeter Wildfire Lab, tests of Zenova FP fire paint, and also the wildfire barrier were tested successfully by Dorset and Wiltshire Fire Services. The Zenova paint and also the FX 500 fire extinguisher were assessed by Gardner Associates and Training Research. And of course, Gardner are long established in fire investigation, and of course they train police and fire authorities. With housing associations, they've conducted a number of tests. Southdown Housing Association in East Sussex, down where we are here. Also tried by NHS Surrey and Epsom Trust, the fire paint, and also successful demonstration testing of the FX 500 fire extinguishers within the TV industry, and of course that took place at Pinewood Studios. But the company's made a lot of progress since the end of that financial year. It's appointed Viridis Group as a sub-distributor in Poland. It's the FX fire extinguishers have been approved for use by the MBA Dresden Fire Organization in Germany, confirming that the fire extinguishers reach the highest standard. And also an IP project with Liverpool John Moores University, looking at how the Zenova IP thermal insulation paint can lower cost of refurbishments, fuel bills, and so on. But I think most significantly, in terms of driving sales, the company announced on the 5th of July that it had seen increased demand for the Zenova FX fire extinguisher through ZenSafe, and ZenSafe has an account with Amazon where it's selling the fire extinguishers on Amazon, and it's already shipped 10,000 units with a retail value of £300,000. And of course, if you take into account the sales for the entire year were 175,000, I think you can see where this is heading. So volumes are really picking up there, but that of course is just one channel. And I think that's what Tony and his team have done. They put in place this network of sales, and the company, I think, looks set to very much become a cash cow at some point, because with the multiple sales networks and the multiple applications for its different products, I think we're going to see Zenova in across so many sectors, both in paint, both in construction, at so many levels, that it'll be the leading brand. And once those sales pick up, it should become a cash cow for many years to come. So I think at this level, we've seen, of course, the share price drop back to 4p. Company's got a market cap of just 4.76 million. So you might view that as racy against the actual sales. But I think the way sales are picking up, I think this market capitalization is going to start to look quite cheap as the months progress. And of course, I think what everyone's waiting for is going to be a trading update on the current year to incorporate those numbers from Amazon. But nonetheless, very exciting stuff. And I think Zenova does look as though it's in a position that it's going to be turning a corner in the not too distant future.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that analysis, Alan. I mean, personally, it's as I said before, it's a new, different company to have to interview on Stockbox, and of course on the podcast. Normally we talk about mining companies or pharma companies, or some kind of tech, but certainly not fire extinguishers or fire prevention. But of course, it's very, very important, isn't it, to make sure that you're doing as much as you can to prevent the start of fires and also the spread of fires, given some of the recent events that have happened. And it certainly seems like Zenova have the products. They're not in development anymore. They are now in the sales mode, I guess, the ramp up, the scaling up of the business. And it comes down to getting those sales out there. But it's already looking fairly good with the Amazon sales there to retail. And I think they've got some fairly large order for Germany as well, for a distributor over there. So I'm looking forward. I think it's a good company to watch out, to keep an eye on effectively, once they start really getting motoring and actually getting their story out there a bit more. I think it could be a fairly steady company to invest in over time.
I agree. I think it's got the potential to be a cash cow. It's just, if you go to the website, I think the website's good because it illustrates all of the sectors that the fire products can be applicable to. That's, of course, the oil and gas industry, aviation, marine, construction. We've already covered automotive as well. You touched on there, and of course, getting into government. So the products are approved at governmental and at local government level. So they become a key part of maintenance programs for council blocks and so on. So that's really when Zenova products become embedded in the infrastructure. And I think at that point, you're going to see multiples of cash generation.
Indeed. Well, thank you for that, Alan. So if we get a bit of an update now on ECR Minerals.
Okay, ECR Minerals, and again, along with its compatriots and peer group, ECR Minerals is experiencing challenging markets. I think is probably an understatement. It's just stocks in the resources and mineral resources sector have taken an absolute battering over the past few years. But that will change at some point, and I think as someone once said, you've got to be in it to win it. And I think if you're holding shares in these companies, then at some point there will be a turnaround. And as we're seeing, with companies that do make these discoveries, the share prices do react and respond. And I think what ECR has done since Craig Brown, the former chief executive, died a few years ago, the company has repositioned itself very much in terms of its asset portfolio. The company, of course, is focused in Australia. It does have a 90% interest in a gold project in the Philippines, and I think the chief executive Andrew Haythorpe indicated last year that as part of their the fine tuning of the group of assets the company has, they may look to move that on at some point, but we'll hear about that no doubt when it happens. The company is plenty of cash at the moment, and it also has assets that it can sell on. It recently sold 2 properties. It has 3 properties in the Victoria region in Australia, and it has a 3rd property. It sold properties both near to Bendigo and also on its Belliston project, being the Gambia Rushworth Road. Those are now being sold, bought cash into the company. And there is a further project at Creswick that may well be sold at some point. Added to this, the company has 2 of its own drill rigs. It has the Midas drill rig, which of course has been busy on the ground drilling at the projects in Victoria, and recently acquired a rig from China, which arrived at Melbourne and is being commissioned. And the company has the potential to earn money from renting those rigs out as well to other operators. So it's not really constrained like so many companies are, and having to wait for drill teams to arrive on site or to schedule drill teams and equipment to arrive on site and undertake work. It can do so at its own pace, and that's key when you're looking to manage the logistics of a company. So what Andrew Haythorpe and the team have done over the past couple of years is, in addition to the projects at Creswick and Bayliston in Victoria and Australia, they have developed projects in Queensland. Andrew Haythorpe went to university in North Queensland, James Cook University, and is very familiar with the territory there. At the stage Andrew joined, the company had the Lulworth Range project up in Queensland. It's Lulworth Range is nearby the Charters Towers gold mine, and a region that's well known for producing gold. There are many producing mines there, aside from that, Mount Lation, Pajingo, and others. And what the team have done, there are 3 exploration tenements there. The team have been on the ground, and they have panned out visible gold. They have seen visible gold on the ground. They've also identified rare earths, niobium and tantalum, and also pegmatites that could potentially contain spodumene, which of course is the basis for lithium discoveries. At the moment, the latest samples that the team have been on the ground they're taking to identify drill targets are with the lab. We're waiting for those results back. They will be with us shortly, and we fully expect from those that some drill targets will be identified. The rigs can then get on site, do the work there, and then hopefully they'll tap into something like something along the lines of potential that have been seen with the other gold projects in the area. The second project in the region, and the company bought an option into this last year, and their option is that they have to spend a certain amount of money and identify targets. This is the Hurricane prospect, and this is one that Andrew Haythorpe was personally involved in. It's way up in the north of Queensland, and it covers an area from which streams were identified, and there are rock outcrops that have been identified through LIDAR, which is a laser survey, and the rocks on the face of it appear to contain mineralization, and also additional mineralization running off into different areas. And Andrew said at the time when they got involved with Hurricane that it was the width of the mineralization that really interested him, and he could see that given the widths that had been seen already from the historical reporting, there was the potential there for commercial grades of gold. And certainly the LIDAR survey results do seem to indicate that at this point. And of course, the team will be getting on the ground there next month to take a closer look at those outcrops that have been identified through the survey, and we'll get samples back from that, and hopefully at the same time delineate some drill targets. The company also has a third option up there too, which is the Blue Mountain project. This is to the southeast of the Lulworth Range project. That's the Blue Mountain project. Again, an area with high potential for gold. And Darren Hazelwood, of course, who well, was involved in the process of selling Blue Mountain to ECR, and the company hasn't actually got on the ground there yet. But of course, logistically, they're in the same region, so they will be on the ground there, I'm sure, after they complete their work at the Hurricane project. So back to Victoria, the Baillieston project, in particular the Blue Moon project, was the results ultimately disappointed. The widths that the company hoped to identify in the ground weren't as extensive as the company had at first thought, but nonetheless there is still plenty of work to do there, particularly given that the world famous Fosterville gold mine is some 30 kilometers to the east. The geology that they're seeing in the region is very similar to the geology and some of the head grades at Fosterville. We then go to the south of Bendigo, and of course that's the Creswick project. The company recently added 2 more tenements, so they've effectively joined. They've now joined Creswick to the north of Ballarat. That's the territory between, which cover the East Narina goldfields. And Adam Jones, the head geo, and the team have been on the ground there. They've identified a number of new prospects. But the company said with the drilling work that was undertaken there, the nature of the gold in that area is nuggety. So you can drill, you can drill extensively, and you'll come across crops here and then bits there. And of course, that is the nuggety nature of the region. And if you go into the Ballarat gold mine, the world famous Ballarat gold mine, again, it's a narrow vein mine, which is designed to mine the nuggety gold that is found in that region. So of course, Creswick has been well, it is still an area of high potential for ECR, but the company has the company said once the drilling finished that it had chosen to prioritize what it felt were the assets of greatest potential. So that's why the company's currently up in Queensland spending its money there, but it will return to Creswick again at some point. In addition, you have the Tambo project, which is in East Victoria, and the team I know will be getting boots on the ground there at some stage this year. And Andrew Haythorpe has said in interviews that he believes ECR has one of the best asset portfolios he's seen of the companies he's worked with. And this is a guy that developed Crescent Mining from an $8 million mining exploration company to a $250 million gold producer. So he knows what he's looking at. He's done the hard yards with Crescent, and he's also worked as a mining analyst too. And I think with that sort of experience, his leadership of the team at this moment is crucial. And I know he is personally very excited about what they'll find at Hurricane and Lulworth. And I think that news, when it comes out, will be a major turning point for the company.
Okay, thank you, Alan. So just picking up on a couple of things there. So it's Hurricane and Lulworth that are now the focus.
Currently, the focus, yeah. I mean, I want to point out the Creswick,
because Creswick was the focus, but Creswick was sort of the one where all the kind of, not, I don't want to say excitement, but there was a lot of sort of buzz around the Creswick exploration, wasn't there? Not so long ago.
And there still is. It's
okay.
Just quite simply, and Andrew said as much in interviews that given the challenging nature of the markets at the moment, the company wants to go where it's going to get its biggest bang for the buck.
Okay.
And it feels right now, given the potential at Lulworth, given what they're finding in Lulworth. I mean, they went to Lulworth, it was virgin territory, never been explored before, and they're pulling out gold grades there. They've got visible gold in the stream samples. They've got identified niobium, tantalum, lithium pegmatite. So there's a whole raft of stuff there. Added to which there's the Hurricane project as well, which has mineralization widths, which Andrew believes are already at a commercial grade, and they view Hurricane as a late stage gold and antimony project, and I think that's really important. So whilst Creswick still has potential, because every time they put they drill at Creswick, they're pulling gold out of the ground, but because of the nuggety nature of the gold, it's harder to identify where gold is gathered in commercial properties, commercial quantities. Obviously, you'll find that in Ballarat. There's also the Eastern Arena gold mine, historic mine there, and there are lots of historic mine workings around the area. So more work is required there, but that work is obviously going to mean boots on the ground, more time spent. Whereas with Hurricane and Lulworth, they've identified the targets already. They know what's there. It's in commercial quantities. They can go there and fast track it and get a result earlier there than they would do at Crescent.
So that's the plan, is it then, to potentially fast track into some sort of production?
Absolutely. Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I mean that when Hurricane was purchased, it was identified as a late stage gold project, and it's important to understand that Andrew Haythorpe's got history with that. He knew of the project before joining ECR. So
And late stage would mean there's already been significant exploration, so there is mineralization there. Is that what you mean by sort of late stage?
Yeah, they know the mineralization is there. They are just looking to see how extensive it is. And if you look at the most recent announcement with the LIDAR survey data, there's an awful. They've got the tornado, the Holmes, and the cyclone prospects to go at, and there are a number of others dotted around too, all of which contain mineralization in depth and in width, and that's the exciting thing. So they're pretty sure that once they've identified the targets through LIDAR, they'll get on the ground there, they'll do the rock chip sampling, and then delineate drill targets and go from there. So that can be done in fairly short order. As I said at the start, ECR has its own rigs and it's able to do stuff at its own pace rather than wait and get drill teams scheduled to go on the ground there.
Indeed. So the plan would be to identify targets to then drill. What do you know what the objective would be? Do they want to try and sort of get a resource sort of statement, or would they be looking to sort of almost, if you're talking about fast tracking like Premier African Minerals, where they sort of fast tracked a plant into production to get something going?
That's exactly what they're looking to do with Hurricane. Andrew believes they can get in there and drill and establish a JORC resource estimate fairly shortly after that because of the size, because of the extent of the mineralization. And if you look on the LIDAR map on the latest announcement, you'll see just how extensive the region is. And I mean, you look at the ECR share price now. I mean, it's got a valuation of just over 3 million with 6 high quality assets. Well, 7 if you include the Dangley asset in the Philippines. Plus, it's got assets to sell, so it can generate cash to self-fund all its activities. It's already funded its activities for this year. So unlike many companies, there isn't in the background the spectre of they've got to raise more money and how they're going to do it at this level. I believe the company will make a discovery before that happens.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Well, let's see how they get on over there with that drilling then. But if they could, they're looking. Do you know anything about if it's potential for open pit mining? Are we at that stage yet of thinking?
We're not at that point yet. The objective is to the LIDARs identify the targets on the ground, rock chip and soil sampling to confirm the extent and the depth of the targets, then of course drill targets.
Right.
And then once that work's undertaken, then a decision can be taken. Once they've got the JORC resource estimate, then the decision can be taken as to how it's got out of the ground. But I would imagine if it's that close to the surface in width, then an open pit mine could well be the solution.
Indeed. Well, it certainly sounds like Andrew's confident about it. If he knows the area, knows the project, you've said there that they looking to potentially fast track this into production. So, well, yeah, I mean, all being well, you've got to get the drill in and see what comes up. But it could be in fairly short order that they actually get something going there potentially.
Indeed, and I think that's the exciting thing. The hard yards have been done, and the ECR share price, along with the share price of so many small cap mining companies, has taken a battering over the past year. But they've done the hard yards. And let's not forget that's just Hurricane. Hurricane is where potentially there could be a JORC resource estimate in fairly short order. But Lulworth, when those results come through too, we might get a raft of stuff there that they can go after, and also possibly establish a mineral resource estimate there too. You know, it's there's a lot to play for, but it's the focus at the moment is Queensland for those reasons.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Alan. So let's keep an eye on what goes on. Do you know when work is expected to start?
Yes, the team will be on the ground there in the next 3 to 4 weeks, following on the LIDAR data, drill targets after that. And as I say, ECR aren't constrained like other companies, so they can get their rig on site, or given the distance, they might choose to work with somebody locally. I don't know, but either way, they'll have a rig on site pretty shortly after that to start the drilling.
Okay, well, let's see how it goes. Best of luck with the drilling to the ECR team. Look forward to seeing some of the fruits of that maybe in the autumn. Would that be reasonable to say, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable. You know, I know Andrew and the team are looking to push this on as quickly as possible. And of course, Andrew is, as I said earlier, he's been there before. He's gone through that process with Crescent Mining.
Indeed. Okay, well, thank you for that, Alan. Good to get an update there on ECR, and nice to learn about the new areas that they are looking for mineralisation there up in Queensland. So, as I say, let's watch and see how it goes. But thank you very much for giving us the investment case there for both Zenova and ECR Minerals.
Thank you, Mark.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.